Hello back there, viewers. Biel Chess Festival is continuing, and we have a very special guest here with us in the studio. That is one of the most famous YouTubers, Eric Rosen. Hello, Eric.
Good to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Right, absolutely. We are thrilled to have you here. Eric is playing in the MTO tournament in parallel, and we thought it definitely would be very interesting for everybody to see Eric in action, perhaps ask some questions in the chat. But Eric, first maybe you could tell a little bit yourself. How comes you decided to play in Biel? Is this a part of a larger tourney across Europe? And yeah, I guess something about your YouTube?
Yeah, so this was a very last-minute trip for me. I decided maybe 2 or 3 weeks before that I would book my trip to Switzerland and play in Biel, and it's been on my bucket list for many years now to come to this chess festival, so I'm super happy it's worked out. And the experience has been just amazing here. Like, everything is just so efficient and clean, and food is good, people are nice, so really no complaints. And I'm going to be in Europe actually through at least the middle of August. I have a good friend's wedding in Italy, and I haven't announced this publicly yet, but I'm planning to play a competition in Germany. It's the weekend of August 4th and 5th. It's called the Chess Tennis World Championship.
Wow.
And it's like a hybrid format of chess and tennis, similar to chess and chess boxing, but maybe a bit less violent. So I'm hoping to get ready for that as well.
Right. I mean, I recently saw it made quite big headlines that Roger Federer was making some exhibition match with Tony.
I saw that. Yeah. It was
this
part
related
of.
somehow?
It's not that I know of.
Okay.
I think that was part of like a Uniqlo sponsorship. I saw the video online. It's like really, really well done. And Roger seems super down to earth, but maybe not the best chess player. But it was super cool to see because I've been a huge fan of Roger for many years.
Yeah, me too. Wow, all right. So how has it been going for you so far here in Biel? I mean, we saw one of your games, I believe round 1 or 2 perhaps, where you unfortunately lost.
Oh, I didn't realize you were maybe checking out my games, but yeah, round 1 I drew, round 2 I lost, so it was not the best start for me. I don't like to make excuses, but I think I was still overcoming some jet lag, and the first 2 rounds I played like very underrated juniors, especially my second round game that I lost. I had a good position, and my opponent found like some amazing resources to come back from what seemed like a very difficult position to just crush me. And it was a very humbling experience because my opponent, I think, was 13 or 14, so not even half my age, and still just outplaying me. But I've been having fun despite even not having the best start, and I did manage to come back with a win yesterday and a win today.
Well, and of course we saw that you already won your game today, right? I believe that you could show it perhaps in a moment. We could go through it, but before, I guess, again, I would like to invite everyone to ask some questions to Eric, because that's a unique opportunity for you to get some inside information from Eric. Now you saw, he just announced it here in Biel, by the way, that he is having this unique project, this chess tennis tournament. Perhaps, I don't know, you could tell to everybody, how did it start? I mean, maybe it's a common knowledge, really. How did it start? How do you decide to become a Twitch streamer? So obviously you have a big Twitch channel, you have a YouTube channel.
Sure.
I'm myself a small-time streamer. I know how much time, how much energy it takes. I know that probably every streamer a couple of times has already almost quit streaming and then came back. How was it with you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different factors to streaming, between actually presenting the content and then learning all the technical aspects on the back end with just Twitch and YouTube, and learning the software and video. But I guess it started for me, I was just giving online lessons a lot and working with a lot of students online. And at some point, I wanted to share my knowledge with a larger audience. And I started in 2017 after graduating from Webster University. And my degree was in interactive digital media, which encompasses like video, photography, web design, a lot of skills that kind of combine well with chess content creation.
Right.
So like once I started, I just really got into it. And I think the most difficult part for me was actually putting myself in front of the camera early on. Like I was definitely not comfortable speaking to a large audience. Like when there would be maybe 10 or 15 people watching, I would get nervous. But over time, the audience grew, and I just really enjoy playing online, sharing my thoughts, teaching kind of the next generation of chess players. And yeah, I've been doing it very consistently for the last about 5 years.
Any future plans?
That's a great question. I'm kind of these days I'm taking it like month by month, trying to figure out how my travel fits into my streaming schedule and content schedule. But I have no plans of slowing down, and I'm trying to keep things kind of fresh and exciting, which is one reason that I'm seeking out tournaments like this to have a different type of content rather than just playing online. I'm actually playing over the board and playing much higher quality games. So it's very refreshing.
And I haven't noticed actually, Eric, that you are making these recaps also for Biel. So it's not only us, we are making these official recaps. Also, Eric is making recaps here. How's the reception?
Oh, it's great. Yeah, I've played 3 different classical tournaments so far this year. Every single tournament, right after my game will finish, I'll go to my hotel and then record like a 15 or 20-minute recap. And people seem to enjoy it. It kind of gives an inside glimpse into what the preparation is like and kind of what goes through my mind during a hard-fought battle. And it does take an extra layer of work because I'm usually tired after a game, but I try and use the adrenaline rush after finishing the game to just go straight into the recap. And yeah, it's fun to kind of see the audience enjoy kind of hearing my thoughts. And it also acts as some sense of therapy. Like after my first 2 rounds, I wasn't feeling good, but to just be able to kind of share what my mistakes were and how I'm going to try and learn from them, it's very therapeutic in some regard.
Oh, I wouldn't have thought of that. Okay, that's pretty interesting. All right. By the way, if I may, I did say to the viewers you can ask questions to Eric. And speaking about the special event, now going back slightly about this chess tennis event, could you please give us a little explanation about how tennis and chess, they're mixed, and what kind of format is it?
Oh, sure. Yeah, so I only found out about this event just last month. It's not so well known, but it will be in Baden-Baden. And I believe the last year's winner was Tregubov, Grandmaster Tregubov.
Right.
And I know Kostyniuk also played last year. And the way it works is there's a chess tournament. I believe it's 7 rounds of rapid. And then also a tennis tournament of 7, I think 10-point tiebreaks. And then you combine the scores from both tournaments, and the top 4 compete in a hybrid format. So there's semifinals and finals. There's a website, if you just search for Chess Tennis World Championship, it has all the information.
Oh, it even has the World Championship title. Oh, wow.
Right, yeah, because I know Chess World Championship is trademarked, but Chess Tennis World Championship, I think, is fair use. So.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to it. I actually played tennis this morning. It was my first time playing tennis in Europe. Played on a clay court, which I'm not used to, but it was a nice break from the chess.
Wow. That definitely sounds great. And also, I'll check out this tournament. I think I heard about Alexander Kostyniuk and Tregubov organizing something. I didn't realize this is somehow connected. All right. Well, maybe let's jump into some chess action, Eric. I don't know, perhaps we could start with your game, right? Yeah. Since you won today so quickly, and you could share your insights about your game, and then we could ask your opinion on what's happening in the GMT, or perhaps there was a single game, single moment as you were doing these recaps.
Sure.
Like, oh my goodness, what on earth is happening there? Your favorite moments, we could go back there and again look at it from your perspective.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I'm happy to share my. I mean, the game today was relatively quick, but
maybe I give
definitely.
you the mouse.
Yeah.
It'll be a bit easier. Just a second. Yeah, if you can reach it.
Sure.
Okay.
So this game definitely had some important lessons. I started with a move that I almost never play on move 1, knight f3. I like to mix things up in the opening, but usually I play e4, d4, c4. And knight f3 I've played maybe once or twice in a tournament before. But I did a little bit of preparation for my opponent, and I saw he played a game entitled Tuesday against Vladimir Kramnik. And Kramnik won like a very nice game from a reverse Nimzo that went c5, b3, eventually d5, and white got like this setup against the knight on c6. So before the game, I was preparing lines along this, but he surprised me on move 1 with d5. And he played this really quickly and confidently. So my preparation like almost went out the window, but then I realized I can still try and transpose. And I played b3. Just waiting for him to play c5 so we can transpose to the Kramnik game. But then he played a reverse London, which I actually like to play as black. I've had this position a ton before, and I played London as white, so I figured it's still kind of within the realm of my comfort zone. And we go forward here. And the first moment that I think was very critical was on this move. He played this move c5, which is already probably a slight mistake. And sometimes you can get away with this, like if you're white and you're playing the London and you play kind of a hybrid Queen's Gambit London setup. But as black, I think over the next few moves we see why this move isn't so accurate. Because I very simply take, and after pawn takes, I castle. And the plan for white is just to play d4 and give black an isolated queen's pawn. And it's very difficult to stop. Yeah, and I know Hikaru is like known for playing this setup in a lot of Blitz and Bullet online. Like he loves this e3, b3. So yeah, I think already like it's a little bit uncomfortable for black. I do want to note like the reason why I don't play d4 here is there's bishop takes b1. I just didn't want to bother like calculating, even though it's I see the engine says it's just very good for white, but I figured castling is a safer approach. And if we go forward a little bit further, I got in d4 and bishop d6. And my opponent told me after the game, like he didn't want to develop the bishop because it loses a tempo, but like what else to do? Because eventually you have to castle. And before taking, I played knight c3, preparing knight to b5. And after castle, I play knight b5. And we're going to see things simplify a little bit, but I get the bishop pair. I get a nice blockade on d4, and it's just a dream position from the opening.
Right.
And in just a few moves, there's a very surprising tactic. After takes, he plays a6. I play bishop f3. And when I played this move, I saw this tactical possibility. If black's not careful, like I'm already threatening to win a piece here. And he missed the idea. He played rook c8 relatively quickly. And maybe for you and for the viewers, this is white to move and win material. So I'll let people maybe
I sort of see the notation, but I have to confess that as soon as you play bishop f3, I realized the idea what is here. But I'm not sure I would notice it before playing bishop f3. Probably I would, but it's a rather unusual idea.
Yeah, it's one of these like easy blind spots because as black you assume this e4 square is just controlled by the bishop, knight, and pawn. But the key thing to understand here is that two of black's pieces covering e4 are pinned. The knight is pinned to g7 with the battery, and the pawn is pinned to the queen. So this should act as enough of a clue to see that the winning move is e4. And yeah, black just has no way to not lose a piece because I'm threatening the bishop and threatening pawn e5. And yeah, it was probably just a painful game for my opponent, but probably just some lessons to take away of realizing kind of the critical moment in the opening with maybe not going for c5, and then, of course, having to be more tactically aware of my resources.
This sort of rings a bell to one quote. I believe you are the author who said, "Oh no, my queen." So here I would like to say, "Oh no, my bishop." And actually, I would like to ask where this quote comes from.
Yeah, so let me actually show a line. Let me give an example of an "Oh no, my queen" moment, because it didn't happen in this game, but I was calculating a funny line where it could happen. So let's imagine in this position my opponent played rook e8, but let's imagine he plays rook c2. And against this move, I was going to take, and play rook c1. And this is a moment where if Black wants to be sneaky, he can play rook e8 and say, "Oh no, my queen." And the origin of this is really when I stream live on Twitch. A lot of people who I play, usually when I play viewers, they're watching the game as I'm playing against them. So they're hearing my commentary. So "Oh no, my queen" is basically a way to try and trick them into thinking I blundered my queen. But in reality, it's a poison piece, and in this case, of course, if takes, there's rook e1 checkmate. So,
right. And do they fall for that?
Not too often. Sometimes what will happen is they'll fall for it, but it's not clear if they were actually watching the stream or if they just didn't see the tactic. But there's been a good handful of clips from my Twitch stream where people do kind of walk into the trap. And it's a nice feeling, makes for good content.
All right, so indeed, the game finished, I believe. You had this extra piece, and you capitalized on it, right? So this didn't happen. You made the window. You said, OK, there's no need for this anymore. Queen b6, bishop f6.
Simplify, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Indeed, a very nice trick. I guess all of it started with a very good selection of the opening. How many points do you have now?
So there's been 4 rounds. I have 2.5 out of 4. And yeah, I'm just trying to take it one game at a time and not worry too much about the overall score.
Right. All right, maybe let's jump to the GMT, and before we select a game, perhaps, Eric, you could choose, I don't know, your favorite moment, because you are doing these recaps. You have seen all of this crazy action yesterday, like Eric Geis against Navarra. Is this your favorite, or there's something else?
I have to admit something. I have not been following the top-level games closely, because it's so hard to find free time.
You're covering your games and the MTO.
Exactly. I'm doing recaps for my own games.
Right.
So it's very hard to find the time to, okay, of course, play a full game, do the recap, eat, and then prepare for my next opponent. So yeah, like maybe you can tell me, like, are there any like amazing games I should be aware of, or cool opening preparation?
Every round. I mean, yesterday there was this crazy action.
I saw. Okay, now that I'm thinking of it, during my game yesterday, I saw Navarra against Argaisi. This I didn't see the ending though. I only saw the situation where he sacks a rook and has a ton of pawns.
That was completely crazy. Every guy was completely winning. He had like 1 hour on the clock. He kept rushing, and he got very quickly in a losing position.
Oh, no.
And everybody went crazy. Right?
Did he lose?
No, in the end, he made a draw down a rook.
Ah, because he had so many pawns, but...
Right. It was insane. All right. I mean, we are following MTO from time to time.
Okay.
Our primary attention goes obviously to the GMT tournament.
Of course.
Sometimes when we have spare time, we are looking at MTO. Obviously, MTO is one of the strongest open tournaments here in Europe. This year it's a bit weaker. I'm not really sure why. I have a feeling it had something to do with the World Cup, right? By the way, all of the 8 players here in the GMT, they're going to
going straight to Baku.
They're
wow.
Straight to Baku. But you're not going, covering?
No. I was a photographer in Sochi in 2021, but I'm prioritizing this chess tennis event.
Right.
And then of course, I have this wedding too, so it didn't quite work out, but I'll definitely be following the event.
All right. Okay, then let's at least have a look at the ongoing games, right? That we could ask your opinion. I'm not sure which game to select. Let's start with... Okay, let's start with the most important game, Vincent Keimer against Wang Lian. Just a second.
I will say that Lequang Liem is a former teammate of mine. We both studied at Webster University.
Oh, you finished Webster University?
Yeah. I've studied there for 2 years. And,
Okay.
we were teammates, and he was the top player on our team, and had our training sessions with Susan Polgar and a lot of other grandmasters. So he's now the coach actually at Webster University.
No,
and
I thought he is.
Yeah, he is the coach at Webster.
Right now, but
right
not
now.
back then.
Not back then, no.
Yeah,
I'm saying back then we were
Right.
both students, yeah. So looks like, yeah, if I'm counting correctly, he's down a pawn, but okay, obstacle are bishops, maybe there's some drawing chances?
Actually, he somehow managed to survive. We're looking at this position here. So you could definitely feel that black is in some danger, right? His pawn on a7 is dropping. So Winston here did not play queen c5. We're looking at queen c5. And we thought that you trade the queens, then the bishop takes on a7, then you retreat, obviously, you promote. But apparently Winston played queen b3, allowing to play rook d6 with the idea to sacrifice the exchange on a6. Now Winston realized that. Look at that, rook b6.
It's a funny way to sack the exchange, but...
It's like in Petrosian style, right? I mean, this very famous game of giving up the exchange against Rashevsky, right? I think it was this rook e5, block all the squares. Very, very famous game. Tigran Petrosian, obviously the former world champion, not today's grandmaster. There's 2 Tigran Petrosians. Black sacrificed this exchange. Winston took it, but now...
But it makes sense to sack the rook for the darks for a bishop because obstacle bishops have more tendency to be drawn, but...
What do you think? What are Winston's chances here?
If I had to guess, I would say that the game will go many more hours. And,
Oh no!
You might be stuck here long after I leave. But it's one of these positions, like white, of course, wants to try and grind him down, like very gradually. But I think it takes a lot of work, and it's hard to say, actually, like what's more likely between white winning or it being a draw. I mean, Lequang Liem is a very tough nut to crack, so I imagine he'll put up a ton of resistance.
All right. By the way, speaking about the time control, Eric, do you like it? Because here we have a very long time control. In the GMT, it's 2 hours for 40, 1 hour for 20, 50 minutes after the end of the game, plus 30 seconds after move 61. I believe MTO was slightly shorter, something like, what was it, 1 hour and 40 or 50 for first 40 moves. You should know better, but
so
I don't remember.
I've never played with this time control before because it's 100 minutes for 40 moves, and then after move 40, you get an extra 50 minutes. On move 60, you get extra 15 minutes, and all with a 30-second increment. So I'd say it's not something I prefer, but it's something I have to embrace, given that it's my life for the next week or so. And yeah, actually the first few games I played, I was like uncomfortable, like trying to figure out how to manage my time, because it feels like you have so much time, but then when you're in that mindset, it's so easy to like spend 10, 15 minutes every move, and then all of a sudden I can get in time pressure, and that happened my first 2 games. So now I'm trying to still kind of play as I would if it was a shorter time control, and then preserve kind of the long things for moments that are like really necessary, very, very critical.
Is classical chess dead? And we are moving to the age of online chess, that all of the most important tournaments will be held online with accelerated time controls, with these tennis sets, so to speak, or there's still hope for us?
Yeah, it's definitely not dead, given that the tournament like this is taking place and there's still so many exciting games. It is true that like Rapid and Blitz is making a huge boom in popularity and becoming more accepted at the highest levels. And there's been more, I think, organizers putting on events in just Rapid and Blitz for huge prize money. And I think it's good for the game because it attracts more mainstream spectators. But I think there's always going to be a place for classical chess, and it's still like, very interesting to see like, very high-quality games of these top players and very deep opening preparation as well. So I think it's nice to have different means of playing and watching chess.
Brilliant. I love that answer because I also hope that classical chess will definitely prevail. Although, I mean, there always been people who are announcing classical chess is dead, you have to move on. Bobby Fischer was one of them who obviously brought into practice the chess 960. Although I'm a big fan of chess 960, to be honest, right? I believe it has contributed something to chess, to the creativity.
Definitely.
But I don't think it's going to substitute chess, really. I mean, the classical chess. All right, do we select another game, perhaps?
Yeah, maybe David Navarro. I always enjoy watching David's games. And speaking of chess 960, I think my favorite game I've witnessed this whole event was his win over Bassem Amin.
Right.
This beautiful sacrifice for mates in the 960 event.
Yeah, that was absolutely incredible. I mean, dear viewers, if you don't remember that, Navarra sacrificed a rook with an incredibly insane idea, knight e4, knight c5. Go to Biel's Twitter page to check it out. It was 3-4 days ago. It should be still there. And it was pretty amazing, Eric, that both of his bishops were not even moving. They hadn't even made a single move. They were standing basically on the starting
I didn't realize that. But,
yeah, bishop f1, bishop g1. It was just one knight, one sole warrior.
Incredible.
Just incredible. All right, what do we have here?
Okay, some imbalance. Pawns are equal. Knight against bishop. Can we just have some context? I'm just curious what the opening is given the structure. So
it was
some Catalan. Okay.
Some rather not really offbeat, but not the most popular move, c6, b5. There was a struggle for the Frenchman trying to understand when to play c6, c5. Here, he didn't like it. There's this very annoying move, knight e5. We are analyzing it a bit, and that's the reason why black played rook d8. a4, trying to slow down black's intentions to play c5, and yet it happened anyway. So there were trades. Navarra played queen b3. I guess he didn't have anything better. And there was very nice and precise bishop d5. So it led to some trades. Navarra, in the fashion of the Catalan, put the knight on d3 first by taking on f6. So they basically got it here like this.
I see. Okay, I've played similar lines as black before against Catalan, sometimes without d4 included. So, first impression, it seems like black is just playing a really solid game. Seems like he's fully equalized despite the double pawns on the king side. And I mean, after king f6, the king has found just a really nice square supporting f5, and is black threatening pawn e4 to win b2.
Actually, we kind of already announced that if somebody is ambitious here, it's only white, because there are these weaknesses, most notably the pawn on h7, where white might pressure a little bit. But now that I look at this, I do see ideas also for black.
Yeah, as white, how do you prevent pawn e4?
That's a fair question. I mean, you can always play, I guess, b4, e4, knight c5. I guess you just grab the pawn on b4. You don't take, obviously, on c5.
I have the feeling that at this level, things will somehow simplify very quickly.
Always find a draw, right?
Exactly.
All right. Right. Yeah, it looks pretty peaceful. Speaking about David, definitely he is one of the most creative players. And Eric, I'm not sure you're watching one of our broadcasts. Probably you did not, because we had this moment with Vincent Keimer here with us, and we said it in the broadcast, as also Vincent told it privately before the interview. He said, Navarra is just such a beast when it comes to tactical chess, right? If you want to play against Navarra, you want to be successful, you have to play dry
very positionally,
chess,
right?
Do you think that's the right approach against highly tactical, skilled, genius level players, where still you should take your chances, go for these complications, because maybe, they're going to miss play?
Yeah, I mean, it's an important concept to be aware of your opponent's style and tendencies, and then try and play in such a way that makes them uncomfortable. Of course, at the Super Grandmaster level, it can be very hard to find any clear weaknesses with any of these players, but players will still have perhaps types of positions that they prefer. So if you know your opponent is very, very strong tactically, it makes sense to maybe have a drier, more peaceful strategic game. But yeah, I try and do this with all my opponents too. When preparing for them, it's not just a matter of checking the openings that they play, but seeing seeing their style, seeing where they make blunders, and seeing how they manage their time too, and trying to formulate a game plan where you can play against any sort of weakness or tendency that they have.
All right. Okay, I do believe that this game most likely is heading to a peaceful outcome. Do you know what's the tournament scoring system here in the GMT?
Oh, this is a good quiz. I saw it maybe on social media or on the website. It's, what, 4 points for a win and 1.5 for a draw?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. I love the system, and I hope that more tournament organizers are going to use it because they have Rapid, Blitz, Classical. Okay, Rapid and Blitz, they have 1 point in Blitz for the win, 2 points in the Rapid. In the Classical, it's 4. But I just love that they have this 1.5 points for a draw. It's like saying a big no-no to these fast Grandmaster draws.
So yeah, hopefully that incentivizes the players to play more enterprising chess.
And they're doing because basically every year, ever since this formula was introduced, I mean, there's almost no short draws. Everybody's fighting it out.
That's great. Yeah, and it's the type of players you want to invite back year after year.
That's right. All right. I'm not sure which game next to select, perhaps you and you against Daniel Bogdandiak.
Yeah, I have not seen either of the other games, so
Okay.
let's check it out. Some more kind of strategic endgame, I see.
Yeah. Let me bring up the small board. So,
Can we do a quick zoom through of the opening?
yeah, we can. I'm not really familiar with this Rosen particular line here, e3. We're discussing if black can play b6, bishop b7. Oh, he's after the short castle. c5, bishop d3, inviting for IQP positions. Black said no. I'm not really familiar with all of this.
I'm not either.
You don't, neither, yeah. Okay.
No.
But there was this very interesting moment when Diak played a6 with the idea to play b5, and he sort of, we felt, underestimated or mixed up something because after d takes on c5, queen takes on d3 is the only move, but he spent about 10 minutes or more. So how would you explain that? I mean, imagine yourself, you're playing the black, and you have the only move to make, and yet you're spending something like 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's surprising because like white's about to play b4, so
Right.
and you can't allow that to happen. Is there any other move to even consider?
No.
Sometimes it can be easy to forget the fact that you have an only move, and you get kind of invested in calculating very deeply. So maybe it's possible he was like calculating queen takes d3, bishop takes d3, bishop takes c3, bc3, and thinking what to do in that position.
Right.
But if it's the only option, you should at least get to that position, then take your time. I've noticed some players will think when they have one legal move, and this is a big no-no. If you have one legal move, you make it, but same applies when you have one just logical move as well.
Right. Okay, so it was rather unbalanced position. White has an extra pawn, but White's position is rather shattered. c6 was an interesting positional pawn sacrifice. What do you think about this maneuver?
Knight a5, wow. Seems like black is trying to just simplify a bit, but of course black is accepting the double a pawns, and like long term, I think black will suffer a bit with white having the bishop pair.
Right.
Of course, that maybe he went for this, realizing that the pawn for white is fixed on a4, and there's knight c5 and bishop d7, and okay, if black can win that pawn, then maybe gradually start pressuring the c-pawn, there's more chances for liquidation. But I imagine it's not going to be that simple.
Yeah, we also did not. We were actually in the beginning we were impressed because it sort of felt homage to the Scheveningen, right? This knight c6, knight a5 usually is a very common idea. Black willingly sacrifices the b pawn and then does something with open b file, but here there's nothing to do at the b file, so we didn't really like it. But okay, they eventually got to this position. The pawn on a4 was falling no matter what. White has two bishops. The question is this enough? How would you rate White's chances?
That's a great question.
Maybe I just go to the conversation.
Yeah, I'm imagining if white had the outside passed a pawn and black had the passed c pawn, that would much favor white with the bishop pair. like overpowering the knight and bishop. But in the case where the white's passed pawn is on the c file, it allows the knight to be more useful.
Right.
Although the knight is kind of sitting on the edge right now, so I'm not sure if it's actually the best square. It might be a question if black wants to rearrange.
I do have a feeling, though, that white is still pressing, right? Because you can always play c5, e4, bring the king. You have the two bishops. This pawn is going nowhere.
Yeah, it's completely risk-free position.
Right.
And I mean, at some point, the a pawn might come under fire, like rook a6 and bishop d1. And it seems like white has enough ways to attack that pawn. At the same time, you have to like attack a4 and then keep c4 defended. So I like the move f3 though, because white's just kind of making gradual improvements, and it seems like black is a little bit stuck here.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest problems usually players face having no counterplay. What would you do usually in a situation when you have no counterplay? I guess you try to avoid these positions in the first place.
Yeah, you either just cry and accept your reality, or you try and put the ball back in your opponent's court. It's kind of like tennis, where okay, you're having some ground stroke battle, and you just get the ball back and keep the game going, and just make sure you're not making any obvious blunders. Because for a lot of like amateur players, when you're under pressure, you don't know what to do. It can be very easy to self-destruct.
Right.
But at a high level, like sometimes you just have to be patient and wait and realize that that everything's okay. So.
All right, and we have one more game I believe we haven't yet looked at. Winston Kammer is gonna, according to Eric, making us work here for long hours. Okay, we are gonna see
have to prepare the coffee.
We have also Amin Bassem against Arjun, guys.
So another two bishops against bishop knight.
Oh wow! Yeah, we.
I mean, I see the eval bar, so it looks promising for white, based on the bar, but also based on the position.
Yeah.
Rook f7 comes to mind, and
is eval bar evil?
I know some people like really hate it. Some people do consider it evil. And then some people like can't watch chess without it. Like they're dependent on the eval bar. I think if you're going to have the eval bar turned on, you want to still be looking at the board more than the bar. But at least it does give some indication of what's going on.
I mean, definitely distracts, right? At least sometimes, because yeah, we have it on.
Yeah.
Not sure why it's on, because we would have to switch it off, because we're not definitely using an engine, but it definitely distracts. You see the eval bar, and sometimes instead of trying to explain the position, you're just wondering why it's dropping, why it's raising, why it's dropping.
Well, the most frustrating thing is when you're doing analysis and you're trying to show a line that you think is good, and the eval bar keeps fluctuating. This happened during World Championship commentary with Fabiano Caruana. Like he was showing some line, and I mean, to be fair, like it's hard to suggest perfect moves, but the eval bar was just fluctuating with every move he was suggesting, so it can really put you in your place. And sometimes it's sometimes what you want to do is analyze just completely on your own without the engine, and then only later, after you have some idea, then you check the eval bar and the suggested lines.
That's a great suggestion. This is also what I always suggest to all of my students. But giving a context of this game, maybe we could go through it. Are you a fan of the King's Indian attack?
I've never played it with white in a serious game. I've had this position with black, at least as e6 d5 setup many times. But I found it to be an opening that basically guarantees an interesting battle. Of course, objectively, it's not seen too often at top levels because black has a lot of ways to deal with it, but at least it leads to a very imbalanced position. And I think as commentators, you're more happy to see King's Indian attack than like Berlin or some like boring,
we hate Berlin.
Boring draw. Yeah.
All kinds of Berlins, and oh my goodness, this Ra Lopez, queen e4, queen e4, queen e4. I'm praying I'm never going to ever see here in Biel. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing about solid openings. But here, d takes on e4 happened on e5. I mean, I do believe that this is not a good strategic approach, although quite interestingly, engine supported. They like these positions.
Yeah, I wonder if this was preparation?
This is a prep, but we don't like it really.
I see. Yeah, it's. I mean, sometimes you just trust what the engine will say before the game, and if it says that this position is playable, then you go ahead and at least it's maybe something a little bit more offbeat that is outside a means like realm of preparation.
Right. So here what White did, he played knight c4, knight e3, knight f5, queen f3. I guess this is what Arjun missed, because knight takes on h6 is very difficult to meet. So we are having some suspicion with Angelica that he simply missed queen f3, which is a very common move. Bishop takes on f5, we really did not like it, right? Because it gives away this powerful last square bishop.
Of course, and yeah, long term, like the two bishops, as we saw in the current position, will come to life in the endgame.
All right, so here the young Indian decided to play for tricks. Now knight h6, queen f6, there's some knight e4, discovered attacks, a4, and now black simply had to accept that he is worse. Opens white now the light square bishop, queen c6, we saw this line even when we were analyzing. Wow, nice, rook a7, this we did not see.
I actually love some brilliant move.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I love the style in which white is playing, making use of potential targets on both sides. Like we see the knight maneuver to f5, we see a4. It's like very resourceful, just maximizing the potential of issues for black in the position.
Right. So indeed, queen c6, rook a7, now queen a7 drops the rook on b5, rook b2, black tries to regain material balance, rook f7, nice, yeah, there's a mate.
I like the fact that you have the brilliant move toggled on.
Right, yeah, so this is how they got here. I mean, so far, Amin Bassam is playing just a brilliant game, extra pawn, two bishops, activating the rook. I guess this is a pawn sacrifice on g3. These guys, they don't blunder. I mean, normally they don't blunder.
And trade the pawns, basically.
Yeah. Now he repeated the position a couple of times. The only thing which perhaps I'm slightly worried here for the Egyptian Grandmaster, it's the clock. Were you having some issues in any of the games here in Biel because there's no increment before move 60?
Oh, so that's different compared to my section. There's increment throughout the game for my section. Yeah, I've never played with a time control where increment is added later on, but that's got to be a little bit nerve-wracking if you're getting low on time and you have to make it to a certain number move.
Okay, then I'll paraphrase my question. Would you find it interesting to play with a time control with no increment, let's say 2 hours for 40 moves with no increment, or you're still a fan of the classical, 90 minutes for 40 moves with 30 seconds for each move?
Yeah, I think it would be very interesting to try a time control where time is added later. I can imagine, though, like getting low on time and having like 20 moves to make and still having to notate the game with no increments must be a lot more difficult, but it's super interesting. I think it's entertaining for the fans as well.
Right.
I've seen this format in Armageddon where like a 1 second increment is added on move 60.
Right, yeah.
There was a famous game at the American Cup between Jeffrey Zhang and Fabiano Caruana, where Jeffrey flagged on move 59 in a winning position. All he needed to do was get one more move, he would have gotten the increments. So yeah, it's a very unforgiving time control.
That's right. It definitely is bound to give some amazing moments, some dramatic moments, and I think this is great for the spectators. Also, I think the players are appreciating it, right? So you need to plan your time management ahead, right, and not leave too little time for the critical moments. That's why chess is so complicated. Yeah, I think those are all of the games. I'm not sure. Perhaps Eric, tell some final thoughts, perhaps, since today is the International Chess Day. What does it mean?
That's true, yeah. I feel bad. I only found out it was International Chess Day like right before the round. A friend was telling me. I've been so invested in the tournaments, and yeah, I really have to. I haven't been checking Twitter at all for most of this tournament, which is probably a good thing. But I've been out of the loop in terms of the chess holiday. So I hope that even for those not playing in the tournament, but maybe watching all over the world, can find some enjoyment in chess and have it enhance your life in some way. And I'm thrilled to be here in the midst of a chess tournament. I'm super grateful that I'm able to compete and share my games with an online audience.
Right. Well, I would like to give everybody a shout out to Eric's channel, but I'm sure everybody knows already who you are, right? So once again, I would like to invite everybody to check Eric's recaps of the Biel's tournament here, right? He's recapping his games, also I guess the general impressions. Well, once again, thank you, Eric, for joining us here. It was an absolute pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much.
If you are going to have again at some point perhaps opportunity to join us for a very quick interview, we would love to have you. What do you think about these awards? I mean, there's the Beauty Awards, a new tradition that we're trying to start, awarding the players and also the losers of the beautiful games by presenting them some gifts.
I think it's a great idea, and it's something I kind of forgot about. I have not submitted any of my games for the Beauty Award yet.
You could do it
I'm
for
not
today.
sure. Maybe for today, I'm not sure how beautiful it was for my opponents, but it's definitely something that will hopefully motivate myself and everyone else to play more beautiful chess. So.
All right, once again, thanks, Eric, for joining us. And everybody who was watching, it was an absolute pleasure to have you here. That was Eric Rosen, a well-known chess streamer and content creator for Twitch and YouTube. Let's wish him best of luck in the upcoming tournament here in Biel. We are making another short break. We'll be back in something like, okay, maybe let's make a slightly longer break, something like 10 minutes. So don't go anywhere. Take some refreshments, come back, watching the GMT tournament in action from Biel.